Welcome to Cream Consulting Channel. The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
My name is Faz Kareem, and today we're going to be covering Excel Introduction 101, Module 1. In this training video, expect to cover Excel fundamentals and basic functions. The topics that we'll include will be Introduction to Excel's interface. We'll also talk about utilizing the search and help features within Excel, using built-in tools like Smart Lookup, how to use keyboard shortcuts to zoom in and out of your spreadsheets, navigating cells with best practices, and then ultimately mastering the most useful keyboard shortcuts that you'll use every day in Excel. We'll play around with features like deleting and replacing cell content. We'll get into performing basic calculations on spreadsheets, a little bit about saving your workbook with keyboard shortcuts or on-screen methods. We'll do a nice tour of the formulas ribbon and talk about creating basic formulas. We'll play around with essential functions that most Excel users will need to know about. We'll also learn how to quickly fill in a column with formulas or functions using the Autofill handle. And finally, we'll discover the difference between relative and absolute cell referencing in formulas and functions. Let's get started. I went ahead and launched the Excel desktop app. Now, Faz Kareem, I am currently using Microsoft 365, which means I get the latest edition, regular updates, and if you don't have Microsoft 365, it just means that you might have 2016, 2019, 2021 version of Excel. But for the most part, as long as you have 2016 and up, you should be pretty good in terms of what features we're going to be covering today, as well as the interface looking pretty much identical to what you're looking at here. Now, this is the PC version of Excel that I'll be using. I know we do have some Mac users for Excel. I still think you'd benefit a lot from this video. Let me know in the comments of the video if you would like to see a specific version just for Mac. And if I get enough of those, I'll go ahead and create it for everybody. So when I do launch Excel, I just want to mention that whenever you open these products like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, it's going to take you to the screen called the Start screen. That's currently what we're looking at here. And more specifically, I'm on the home page of the Start screen. The Start screen is pretty useful because if I need to, it lets me and allows me to access my templates. Now, right now, I don't have too many custom built templates. We will get into that in Module 2. But a template is a specific file type in Excel, the .xltx files. And if you do save your templates, or if you save a workbook as a template, you'll notice that the next time you launch Excel, you can access it from the templates window. And one of the options in the templates window is to be able to pin specific templates to the front of the Start screen. Now, these are the built-in templates that I'm looking at here. Blank workbook is probably the most heavily used template in Excel since we always usually start there. If I want to see my custom templates, I can click on More Templates from here. And if you have successfully saved a template correctly, you'll see this word called Personal in this section, and that will show you your personal templates. We'll talk about this in Module 2, but a personal template can be pinned to the home page of the Start screen. It'd probably just take up one of the spots here where your personal template would be found. So if you're constantly using a workbook every month and you need to put new data in it, maybe a scheduler that you're using every week, you want to put your new tasks in it, creating a template out of that file is ideal. It avoids so many issues that could arise without a template, like accidentally overwriting some important work. And it just makes it easier to launch and access the template every time you need to go and use it. Now, we're still on the home page here of the Start screen. And on the bottom here, we have a section called Recent. This will show you any recently used Excel workbooks that you've opened with your account. There is an option to get some of these workbooks and what we call is pin them. This workbook is pinned currently, my workouts Excel spreadsheet. And this little section pin will just filter off and show you just the pinned workbooks that we have. Now, in case someone has shared a workbook with you, whether it's through Outlook, OneDrive, you'll see the items, specifically Excel items, that users have shared with you from here. So, now that we see the home page of the start screen, let's head over to the New section down here. We've seen this before. The New section is simply showing you a piece of more templates, except this window allows you to browse for any built-in templates or online templates that you can use. Now, if you're typing in specific phrases that are popping up with no results, I encourage you to use the suggested searches as a good way to find that specific template that you're looking for. Now, these templates will be great starting bases for specific uses of Excel, but you don't need to use a template or a built-in template. You can always create your own. Now, the last section here called Open allows me to essentially do that. Open any workbooks that I may need access to. Allows me to browse my cloud locations like OneDrive or even my computer, File Explorer. Now that we've seen the start screen, I think it's best that I go open up a blank workbook here. And this blank workbook will take me over to the actual spreadsheet tool, and we'll start learning about that interface there. Now, I went ahead and opened up my Excel workbook. It's currently not saved, so the title will say that it's book 1 or book whatever number book that may be, depending on how many of you opened. So if you see 2 or 3, it just means you might have opened another one. Now, before we dive into the actual spreadsheet creation, let's talk a little bit about this top portion of Excel. The top portion actually has a name that Microsoft has given it. It's called the ribbon. More specifically, the ribbon interface. And that was created in 2007 for us. Inside the ribbon, we have various tabs that we could use. And you're going to notice that these tabs are pretty nicely organized with these labels called command groups. And within the command groups, you're going to notice that all the tools that you need in Excel are available there. Now, keep in mind, there are hundreds of tools that you can use. And if you can't remember where a specific tool is, what command group it's in, or what tab it's located in, like maybe this merge and center tool, you can always search for it at the very top. As I type, it filters out the tools, and there's merge and center. Down here, I have help articles that I can use. So you kind of don't need to know where every tool resides in Excel. Just know that they exist. We can always search for them. Now in the ribbon, well, a little bit below the ribbon, you're going to notice that we have something called the name box. The name box will show you names of any tables that you create, as well as the cell address of the current cell you're on. Right now I'm on cell A, column A, row 1. And we also have something pretty interesting here called the formula bar. The formula bar will be a nice, quick, large view of any cell's contents, whether it be a formula or just complete strings that you type in. So there's a lot going up here on the top part of the screen in Excel, all the way down to the command groups. Now this terminology is really helpful to know in case you're going to go search for something on Google. It might be helpful to know the word ribbon. Or if we're going to move around today and I'm like, let's access the formulas tab, we know that the tab is referring to the top portion of the screen. Or if you're needing to locate something on your screen and it's stuck inside the alignment command group. These are all very uniform ways that we can go and locate these tools. Now at the very top of the ribbon, you're going to notice that we have an area here, which has a specific name. It's called the Quick Access Toolbar. The Quick Access Toolbar is going to allow us to save our file, undo the last 75 actions that you've created since you've last saved Excel, And also redo, in case you made a mistake and undid something and need to redo it. Now, right next to the quick access toolbar, you're going to notice that there's a drop-down arrow. That drop-down shows you the most commonly used commands that users typically should add to the quick access toolbar. Well, most users, depending on their job roles. You can actually add any of these tools to the quick access toolbar today. So if you find something today that you find useful, and you're like, I maybe might not remember where that is, feel free to add that tool to your quick access toolbar. Now, an example of adding a tool to the quick access toolbar is just simply maybe right-clicking a specific tool, like I'm going back to merge and center here, and the top option here is add to quick access toolbar. Upon adding it, you'll see that in all of your Excel workbooks opened up on this device that you've added it to, we'll go ahead and have that item. This is known as what we call an application level setting. So in this application that you will always have that item in your quick access toolbar. It's also very easy to customize it by removing things. A right click will remove items from the quick access toolbar. If you are a Microsoft 365 user, this drop-down arrow is going to allow you to even show the quick access toolbar below the ribbon. My preferred area is below the ribbon. I can now see that right below the command groups, I have my quick access toolbar, which actually color codes the items on the quick access toolbar. If your screen size is large enough, you'll also have the option to show the command labels for the quick access toolbar, which makes it even easier to locate those commonly used tools and know what that icon is going to do for you. So there's a lot going on, up and on, in the Excel's top portion of the screen. The ribbon, the formulas bar, we call it, the name box, the quick access toolbar, tabs, command groups, the name of the workbook, the search functions, all at the very top. Let's focus a little bit at the bottom here. Now, the bottom of the screen actually has a couple of very important areas that we should know about. One being the activate window. Now, the activate window shows me these two little arrows right now, which if I had a bunch of worksheets to go through, I can always skip to the next worksheet and view them. But all three of the worksheets that I've added are viewable here. In case you're having a hard time going through that, you can always right-click this general area, and it will pull up the activate window for you, which shows you a list of all the worksheets that are unhidden in your Excel workbook. You can use this to navigate to specific worksheets as well. At the bottom here, we have different worksheets that we have available. I've customized my Excel to always create 3 worksheets for me upon workbook creation. I can always right-click and delete these extra worksheets since I only need one for now. If I do need to add new worksheets, I can always click on this plus sign to create a new worksheet down below. Now, to the right-hand side of all your worksheets, you're going to notice there is a horizontal scroll bar. If you don't see it, it might be hidden. This is an example of it being hidden, but I can always click on these little dots, the ellipses there, to increase the size of that horizontal scroll bar. So right down below this area, we also have a very, very tiny area that's worth a mention. Down here, right below everything, there's actually something called the status bar. It's a very descriptive name because the status bar simply gives you a status about things like what view you're currently on, how zoomed in you're on, or how zoomed in you currently are with the workbook. And right now I'm at 100%. If I highlight numbers, it will sum, count, find the average for me automatically down there. There's even an option to record macros from here. If you right-click the very bottom of the screen, you can always customize the status bar. You can add specific things like sheet numbers, workbook statistics, and all the way down here like signatures, permissions, specific settings like caps locks, number lock. And you can even choose what functions will be available, usually on the right-hand side of the status bar, once selecting numbers in a cell. Now, some very useful things that we like to add on the status bar is the zoom slider and the zoom percentage, which we can see on the right hand side there. Now, the status bar also lets you change the view of your Excel spreadsheet, and we're currently on the normal view. There's also a view called page layout, which will show you the Excel workbook page and how it'd look when it'd be printed. Great for also adding any headers or footers. We'll be using the page layout view in later modules to customize things. Page break view, we'll go ahead and add a little break where each page would end. This will give you an idea of how many sheets you'll have upon printing. So, our Excel interface here has a lot going on from the top to the bottom, from the left to the right. Now that we've done a tour of the spreadsheet, I'd like to mention that there is one tab that acts slightly different than the rest of them. That's the File tab. The File tab does have a specific name. It's called the Backstage view. The Backstage view is a pretty fitting name because when you click on it, it's kind of going to go ahead and show you the backstage items. Now, in a weird way, it's kind of looking like the start screen, right? Home, new, open. But I also have things like the information of the workbook, to save the contents or to save a new copy, create an Adobe PDF or print or share with one of my cloud services or export into a different file type, publish the contents to a specific area, or even close the workbook. On the bottom here where it says account, feedback, and options, I can view my account and whether or not updates need to be made and what subscription level I have. And on the options here, I get to control specific basic options in Excel. Some general options, we'll say. I just clicked on the options here, and I'd like to mention that a pretty cool option that you have available to personalize your Office, your Microsoft Office suite, is the ability to change the background effects as well as the Office theme. The background usually shows up on the top here. And the Office theme I currently set to colorful, which is the default theme. But there is some darker app modes that you can use. Keep in mind that if you change your Excel theme, it's going to automatically change Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook for you. So you can't have different themes across the products, but you can have a theme for your overall Office suite. Now that we've done a tour of the Excel interface here, I want to spend some time talking about the search and help features coming up next. Go ahead and open an Excel workbook, I recommend. Browse through it. Set up your status bar with things you'd like to see. Choose the location of your quick access toolbar, whether or not you want to see it below or above. And maybe add an extra item or two there. Let me know in the comments what specific tools you plan to add to your quick access toolbar. I want to spend some time focusing on this search box. Now, in older versions of Excel, I just want to mention that it's going to say something like, tell me what you want to do. And it's going to be a little light bulb next to it. In the more recent versions, they just call it search. But if I were to go in here and type in a specific tool like merge and center, I can use it from here. I can also, this is a good tip, right click it from here and add it to the quick access toolbar. And if I'm not familiar with how to utilize the tool, I can always get help. And when I click on this little help article, it's going to pull up this Microsoft support page for that specific tool. Some have videos while others don't. This area can be expanded, and it gives you a little playthrough of how to merge and center and unmerge cells, as well as some step-by-step directions. Even tells you how to unmerge cells from here and some important notes that you should read about. There are some other suggested Microsoft support page articles that you can view from here, and these are all found publicly online. So if you want to hit read article in browser, down here it opens up your default browser, whether it be Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, whatever you may be using. Your default browser will be used to open this. And here you can tell whether or not this information was helpful after you're done using it. Now keep in mind that when you're done using the help, it's important to just close it and not leave it open, taking up a good chunk of your screen the entire time. A tool that I find underutilized in Excel, but could have some pretty potential uses, is called Smart Lookup. Smart Lookup can be found in the Review tab, and under the Insights command group, you can find the official icon for it. Here, Smart Lookup is a built-in tool to search for definitions, images, web pages, and other results from online sources. You will need an internet connection to view Smart Lookup, but it's very simple to start using. You can select a word or phrase, and with a right click on the mouse, you can choose to search using Smart Lookup. Icon for it there. The results pane will pop up, so let's see an example of me using it here. I'm going to close this help article, and I'll type inside of cell A1, Smart Lookup in Excel. Upon right-clicking, I can see the option, Smart Lookup. Older versions might say Search. When I click on Smart Lookup, it pulls up the search pane. And here are some videos, top media results, even help articles on Smart Lookup, web searches on Smart Lookup, and it's powered by Bing down here. I currently have my Excel file open, and I just want to mention, in Microsoft Excel, you're going to notice at the very bottom right, you have something called the zoom slider. I'm currently zoomed in at about 100% on my spreadsheet. It says it right there, 100. Now, if you don't see a zoom slider, you're going to have to right-click the status bar, and the option to turn the zoom slider on or off is available from there. You can also turn off the zoom percentage, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on, both of them there. Now, alternative way to zoom into the spreadsheet as opposed to just clicking on this minus sign or clicking on this plus sign to make everything bigger is actually using the center wheel of your mouse. So if you do have a mouse connected to your device, you can always use the control key and the center wheel of the mouse to zoom in and out of the spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and make this much larger for me before we move forward here. Noticing how all the rows and the column letters, including the cell sizes, are increasing. I'm over here at 400% zoom, ready to get started. So, I want to start creating my spreadsheet. And I think a very useful example to see is maybe creating a monthly sales sheet, where you can track the monthly sales of a store, a restaurant, products you're selling. For mine, I'm going to go ahead and call it FAZ. We'll call it just FAZ Coffee and Treats. Now, I could always use my mouse or my directional arrows to go down to the next cell, but I like to talk about ways where you can effectively move around your spreadsheet, but not always have to move around your keyboard. So in Excel, I want you to know that when you click on the enter key, it means to go down a cell. And in case I need to go back up a cell, I can use Shift and Enter to go back up a cell. If you need to make an edit or change the text within a cell, you can add your cursor to the cell by putting F2. And that puts the cursor at the very end of the cell, allowing you to start the edit. So if I'm on cell A1 here and I hit Enter, it goes down. If I hold down the Shift key and hit Enter, it goes up. If I click F2, my cursor shows up in the cell that I'm currently on. Now, some folks will let me know that their F2 key does nothing, or it might decrease the brightness of their computer screen. You might have to hold the function key to use the top row F shortcuts. So F2 and F and N. Clicking those together would sometimes activate the cursor is in the cell shortcut. Depends on your keyboard and whether or not you have the function lock currently turned on. I'm going to go down a few cells, and I think in cell A4, I'll begin my header rows. And I'll go ahead and call it salesperson for my first header. And now I want to move over to the right. And if I want to move over to the right, I can use the tab key. And just like we discussed with the Shift and Enter, Shift and Tab goes to the left. So if I'm on this cell and I hit Tab, I'm going to type in week 1 to track my first week sales. Tab, I'll type in week 2. I'm going to move this text box a little bit below so I can continue my weeks. Tab, then I'll type in week 3. And Tab, I'll type in week 4. I'll do one more tab to add in the word total at the end there, where we can do some formulas or functions to track the total. Now, I'm noticing that my very first header is cut off. If I select this cell, I'll shift tab my way back to the left. I can see that in the formula bar, the letter N is available, but it's not showing up in the cell because the column width is not large enough. So if you're going to deal with this might happen to multiple cells, multiple columns here. I'm adjusting all of them to show them how it can be cut off. There's actually a trick to fix this quickly, as opposed to adjusting each column one by one. If I go and I select this triangle here, next to the letter A and the number 1, that selects everything in the workbook. An alternative way to select everything in the workbook is another keyboard shortcut. So if I hit Control and the letter A, it's going to select all. Control A, Control A, Control A. Notice how depending on where I'm at, the select all uses the context you're in. So if I'm in the header row, it selects all of the headers. If I'm in a blank cell, Control A, it selects all the spreadsheet. Now if I control the headers, Control A the headers, and I want to go to the spreadsheet, select the rest, I can hit Control A again and it goes to the next scope, which is the whole spreadsheet. So whether it's clicking that triangle or Control A, you now can actually auto size the columns. You can get the best width by simply double clicking between one of the columns. And just like that, I can see that every cell, zooming out a bit so we can see everything, now has a perfectly fit size to ensure all of the text is visible in the cell. So I'm going to add in a few more names. I'll put Faz Kareem as one of the salesperson, Bruno Mars as another one, Teller, Swifty, and we'll do Donald, Ducky. Feel free to use your own names there. Now, I do want to put in some values, just some placeholder values here. I'll put the number zeros here, 0. And if I don't want to sit there and type out everything, I can actually use this little tiny square at the end of the 0, known as the autofill handle. And what this does is it's going to allow me to repeat that 0 across the row. I can also use the autofill handle to go down as well, and that will repeat the 0 across the other rows. Now, Excel does have data types where you can mark things as text, as dates, long dates, short dates, accounting formats, currency formats, and right now, these zeros do not have a data type. They're set as, if I click on it and go to the Home tab, General. Now I can always highlight the cells and change it to the number format where it's accounting. It aligns the decimal places, puts the $sign in front. But I can also use a keyboard shortcut for that as well. If I use Control Shift and the $sign symbol, which is usually found on the top row attached to the number 4, that shortcut will go ahead and automatically assign the number format I'm looking for. Control Shift 4. And I can do multiple cells at once, just like I've done here. Before you move on to the next video, try to nail in some of these shortcuts we've covered. The Enter, Shift Enter, F2 if you need to make any edits, Tab, Shift Tab, Control A, and Control Shift with the $sign for currency formatting. When you're done, go ahead and come back and we'll continue on further. Now, what I realized is I want to go into the spreadsheet and I want to replace anywhere it says coffee and treats. I can only see there's just one area here. But in case there was multiple areas that this was already typed out, this feature might come in handy. If I go over to the Home tab here, there is a command group called Editing. From here, you have the option to use Find and Select. Upon clicking on the drop down, I have the option to use Go To. This will help me find something specific. Or I could use Replace. The keyboard shortcut for Replace is Control and H. Let me go ahead and click that. Control H. Attached to it is the Find tab, where I can find things if I need to, but I want to find and replace. So I'm going to find treats and replace it with tasty. And I'm going to hit Replace All here to replace all occurrences. And Find and Replace is an extremely useful feature if you have multiple areas to make an edit to without spending too much time. Alright, let's talk about performing basic calculations. I do have a column here for totals, and I do want to just add these numbers up so that I have a total here. Now, calculations are the most basic form of doing, let's just say, math in a spreadsheet. You're going to start with just the numbers that you want to go ahead and add, but before typing in the numbers, you have to put an equal sign to let it know that you want to do a calculation or a plus sign. If I put 0 plus 0 plus 0, and my final 0. This is known as a calculation which has no correlation or connection to the cells we're actually adding on the left-hand side. So this added to 0, but if I change one of these to, let's say, 1, it has no effect on the cell. Calculations use actual numbers that are essentially hard-coded in to the cell itself. It leads to multiple updating spots. Up next, we'll save this workbook, and then we'll get into more advanced methods of doing maybe a formula, which would be connected to these cells. We'll go ahead and talk about using a function, and then more faster ways like keyboard shortcuts to complete a function. Now, usually when I start putting in actual formulas, functions, calculations, I check to make sure I've saved this. Now, right now I can tell this workbook hasn't been saved because it says Book 1 at the top, a generic name that shows up. I can always go to the File tab and choose Save As, or click on the Save from the Quick Access toolbar. But if you're a fan of keyboard shortcuts like me, the F12 key will open up the Save As box. So F12 will open up the Save As box in Excel. F and N might need to be clicked. F and N may need to be clicked. And I'll go ahead and save this in the correct area for us. I'll call it Excel Module 1. Save. This will go ahead and update the name here, and depending on if you've saved it on OneDrive or SharePoint, autosave will go ahead and be turned on. Be sure to save your workbook if you're following along. Alrighty, I want to do this next one with a formula. And if I go over to the Formulas tab, I notice there's a whole tab devoted to formulas or functions. And here I can see the function library and the ability to insert functions if I want to type them out from here. AutoSum is also found here. We'll talk about that. For our first formula, we're going to do it directly within the cell, which needs the formula to start with an equal sign. And from there, you can use cell addresses. Selecting a cell will select the cell address of the cell. And I can add each and every cell address that I need. The cell address name will be color-coded with the highlight color. Upon hitting Control and then the Enter key, I can see the result of the formula without going down to an Excel. Unlike the calculation, any updates that happen to the cell's address that you've used will also update in the formula. We'll talk about using functions and then a nice shortcut for functions coming up next. The next method we have to actually get these numbers added is using a function. Still starting with an equal sign, you can type in the name of the function and it starts filtering the function library for you. You can use your drop down arrows to select the function you want. In this case, mine will be sum. And if I click on the tab key with the name of a function selected, it's not going to move to the right. It's going to select the function from that list. I'm going to tab to select it. And this makes it a lot easier. If you just want to sum the numbers, you can just highlight across the numbers or cells that you want to select. In the newer versions of Excel, starting in 2013, you no longer need to close the bottom parenthesis or the last parenthesis, although I do it out of habit. Now the final row, I'm going to do a function, but I can go over to my Home tab. There's a tool called AutoSum there. I can go to my Formulas tab, and there's a tool called AutoSum here. Or I can use the keyboard shortcut for AutoSum, Alt, and the equal sign. Alt and the equal sign will go ahead and add the cells within here and put the function to the right for me. It's the keyboard shortcut for AutoSum, which will automatically add your cells, and the total will appear either below or to the right of the selected cells, depending on what you have selected. Now, one column that I want to add in is the bonus column. And in column D or D1, cell address D1, I'll put the bonus. And in E1, I'll put the bonus rate, which is 5%. And I want to do a formula where it will give me the total bonus depending on the total. It's simple enough. I just need to multiply the cell address that holds the total with the bonus. When I hit Control Enter, it gives me 0. And if I pull down my autofill handle, it completes it for me. Alternatively, I can also double click the autofill handle. But I am noticing that there is an error. And now I want to start talking about why this error happened. Your autofill handle changes the cell address that you're working with. And in my bonus cell, E1, I need that to stay fixed. This is known as relative referencing here, where the cell that you're referencing changes relative to the direction you're using autofill. That can be corrected with absolute referencing. I can get the cell E1 and I can use the keyboard shortcut F4 to add the dollar signs in front of the column and the row to absolute reference the cell. Upon redoing the autofill handle, I can see that my error goes away, and each and every formula is referring to the correct cell, E1, while column F is still relative to give me the correct total. It appears that you've made it to the end of Module 1. This is Excel Introduction 101. Stay tuned for Module 2. Let me know your favorite feature or topic that you learned or shortcut that you learned in the comments. And if this video helped you in any way, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more.